For the current events project, I've been the primary and secondary source I've chosen are both related to exposure of public information by Facebook that have influenced election results in both UK and United States. So for both the primary and secondary sources, Cambridge Analytica is involved, a private firm in the UK that specializes in behavior micro-targeting, particularly for political campaign support through the use of data mining, breakage, and analysis. And the farm has been funded in part by the Republican donor and hedge fund billionaire Robert Mercer and his family, and has ties to former and current Trump advisors. The U.S. Republican Party is also in part, which is a conservative party in the U.S., represented by Donald Trump, the current president of the United States. Facebook is also involved, which is a large social media platform under the leadership of Mark Zuckerberg. It is currently coming under fire as a result of this scandal and the continued silence of its CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, with shares currently dropping by staggering margins. Lastly, for primary source exclusively, Amazon, a large retail company in the US, acts as a platform through which Facebook ad developers reveal public information. So what has actually happened is that in the secondary source specifically, but also applying to primary source, Cambridge Analytica has involved itself with several high-profile campaigns throughout the US and UK, most notably the Trump campaign in 2016 and the Brexit campaign, while utilizing apparently illegally obtained Facebook data in order to inform political campaigns. And Facebook has been charged for being responsible for selling the customer's personal data for profit. Although the action is stated in the terms and conditions, the selling of data is still quite alarming to the public. And Mark Zuckerberg had been called to report to UK authorities after the surfacing of the issue, but he has sent his senior deputies instead. The primary source re-highlights this entire controversy above while reporting another release of public information by Facebook through the Amazon's cloud. So why is this issue important? Because it impacts the people and their lives in numerous ways, as a scandal has led to the proliferation of discussion regarding individual right to privacy. As technology further develops, as we rely more and more on technology in our lives, and as we become part of more services and platforms, we will deal with many growing pains associated with this technology. Ethical dilemmas will certainly be brought about, like whether or not our data is for sale, how private can our lives be, does anyone deserve to use our data, etc. Especially regarding the secondary source, there is a question of whether the Facebook had the right to sell this data to companies like Cambridge Analytica. And if elections are affected by the influence of one firm, the issue of tampering also emerges. Now, what this even shows is how people have been lured into false security with all the social media platforms they become part of. People will certainly be more wary with social media and more likely to actually read the terms and conditions through which they agree to. Companies will have to review the ways that they use and obtain the data, as it is clear what kind of damage that a scandal like this has caused for Cambridge Analytica as well as Facebook. Now, the issue likewise will change the way I interpret social media every day. By showing how easy it is for my personal data to be leaked to unscrupulous companies, even if I didn't personally authorize it, the scandal has sort of changed the lens through which I view social media. As previously, I felt my payment for these services was just being subjected to ads, but having my data sold to companies crosses a line. In regard to the future effects of my personal life, this scandal may change the approach governments across the world take to regulating the internet, as being able to influence voters in such a direct way is a cause for concern for governments. Personally, I believe this issue was not too surprising for me, because it has been obvious that social media platforms cannot rely on advertisement as their sole source of revenue. This, even in my opinion, is something that needs to be discussed, not particularly for what transpired, but the questions that it brings up about the rights that we as people are entitled to and the future of the social media. The usage of personal data to influence voters is something that needs to be addressed. But more importantly, it brings up the question of the boundaries for election campaigns. A whole myriad of questions has come to me as a result of this event, and are things that we as a society should be all discussing about. I personally believe that this event will seriously change the typical mechanism that we have seen social media platforms employ when running. As now users are much more aware of their privacy and value such protection, which is why we have seen the rise of services like WhatsApp that do not store any of the user's personal data. This event, despite the fear it causes for many, has been the disruptor that has been desperately needed in Silicon Valley to truly start a long overdue discussion on the rights of people to privacy on the internet.